Hello, Scott. Okay. If you have the syncopation handy, we're going to be working from the syncopation book today and a few other things. Did you enjoy yesterday's lesson? Last night's lesson? Any questions on it? Hello? Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing tonight. Now we're going to be working from the syncopation book. What you downloaded was correct. You just need to know who's this? Nick's Chicks? How you doing? Okay. Anyway, we're going to be working from the syncopation book, and what I do, there's so many different things you can do with the syncopation book. It's one of the greatest books ever. Yeah, I realize that, Scott. There is a bit of a delay, and that's not a problem. What I'm going to do, first off, you need to understand certain things when you're reading. The mechanics of the math, it's all fractions is what it amounts to. Like you have quarters, eighths, sixteenths. You have wholes, halves, and quarters, eighths, and sixteenths, and 30-second notes. And you have to understand definitions. Now, like I said, I want to work from the syncopation book today. This one here is the second edition. There's 3 editions total. All right, the first edition is a little smaller. The second edition is this one. In the third edition, I don't know if it's still in print or not, but they changed the color and it comes with a disc. And I guess they want to see what happened. They sort of, put pictures of guys like Neil Peart, Vinnie Colaiuta, Steve Smith, Dave Weckl, I guess to market the book, but this is not a book you need to market. This is a great book. It needs no marketing, no advertising, and if you're a drummer and you're serious about your drumming, this is a must book, as is the stick control book. So Scott, you have the book, and being that you're consistent on attending the lessons, what is this? Why does this do this? Hold on. Why does this do this? Hold on, gentlemen. Okay. Because you're very constant with the attending, and you're just kind of starting out, I believe you said, correct? About 10 months? Why don't you suggest a page we start with? And I'll explain to you my approaches and how I teach from the syncopation book. So that's up to you now, Scott. Give me a page you want to start with. Now, that's Nick's Chicks. Is that who that is? What is your first name anyway? Is it, okay. All right, that's good. That's okay. That's not a problem. That's actually easier to teach you because I have other guys come to me, they say they can read, and they don't understand how to read at all. And I have a couple guys say, I got accepted at Berklee College of Music. I open up a book, put quarter notes in front of them, they can't even read that. Now, how can they possibly get accepted at Berklee if they can't even read quarter notes? All right, I'm not going to start totally in the beginning. Let's, this might be boring for some, but hey, it's always great to revisit, and at least Scott is honest, and Scott says, okay, let's start somewhere and grow. That is much respect. All right, if you open up to page 10, lesson 4 is what it is. Can you open up to that? And there's some things that you have to understand. What a measure is, what a staff line is, what a bar line is, and a definition. All right, so you can read the quarter notes. That's all right. That's a good start. But what you need to start with now is understanding counting systems. Now, a lot of guys say, I don't teach my students how to count. Well, if somebody told me that, I'd run away. Counting is essential. That's it's actually on this version. It's page 10, lesson 4. Playing eighth notes and quarter notes. It's a combination of. So you want to get that out, okay? Now, what we have here is time signatures. What is a time signature? A time signature tells you how many beats there are going to be in a measure and what kind of notes receive the downbeat, the count. So he writes here, instead of a number 4/4, he puts a C. He puts a C, which means common time. It's the same as 4/4 time. 4/4 time is the most played time signature, and so he puts a C. It's substitute, instead of 4/4, it's a C. That means common time. So common time and 4/4 the same thing. So what does 4/4 mean? All right, 4/4 means there are 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, or downbeats to a measure. Each quarter note receives 1 count or 1 beat. Now that's a definition, or a rule of a definition, that I use for all time signatures. The top number indicates the beats per measure. The bottom number indicates the kind of notes that will receive a count or a beat. So therefore 4/4 would equal 4 beats to a measure. So if I put let me turn the metronome on to, let me just say 80. That's a good tempo. Now this is the quarter note. I'm using that as the quarter note. And I'm counting quarter note counting. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the quarter note. Now, from that point, all the notes are, you can subdivide them. You could use 16th notes, you could use 8th notes, triplets, dotted quarter notes, dotted 8th notes, whatever you have to use. But the rule remains the same, and that's where it becomes automatically. Okay, that's good. That's a talent. That's something that's good, Scott. That you could hear the tune, you could play the tune, you could feel the tune. But now, if I said to you, Scott, write the tune out. Now what? Okay. So, you want to learn how to read. This is stage 1. And I take this all over the place. But before I take it to any place else, you have to have stage 1. So now, if you look at the first line, I'm going to use an 8th note count. There's a couple counting systems that you should know. The quarter note count, if I put this on, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, that's my pulse. That's the quarter note. Now, if I count eighth notes, it's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Now, 2 eighth notes equal 1 quarter. So I need to get the 2 eighth notes inside of that quarter. That's what I'm doing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. Now, if I want to do, that's quarter note counting, eighth note counting. Now, what I'm going to do here next is a triplet, eighth note triplet. I need to get three strokes in there, or 3 notes inside of the downbeat equal to the next downbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we have the 16th note counting, which is 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and here we go. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and now inside of the distance between 1, 2, or 2, 3, or 3, 4, you can play all kinds of things, but you need to maintain the time signature value. Did you see what I said? Scott, you could hear the song, you could play the song, you know what time signature it is in, but can you write it out? Or if you were playing in 11/16, or you were playing in 9/8, there's a lot of things that are involved. But we're going to get to that. We're going to approach this page, that's lesson 4, eighth note counting, which I'm going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And this is where it begins. If you have a strong foundation for reading, you could read anything, eventually. So we're going to use the metronome a little different. And it might be a little boring for you, but I believe this is essential. Now, I said that's the quarter note, but I'm going to use the tick as the eighth note, and I'm going to count eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I'm going to play the line, but I'm going to maintain eighth note counting throughout. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, it's not necessary to do that, but it is a step towards a finished product. The reason why I'm counting eighth notes is to equalize the space between the quarter notes. So, with that being said, and I made that 80, that was at 80, each tick was the count. Now, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to take it to, let's go to 60. And we're going to do 60 as the quarter note now. But I'm maintaining the count of eighth notes. That's my downbeat. 4, 1 and 2 and ready, now we play. Boom. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, once you understand how that's you can read that, and you want to up the tempo, well, I mean, if you're going to play a tempo about here, let's say 170 or 160, let's try 170. It's just a lot to count. And before I forget, it keeps going inside and outside of my mind. The way I count is staccato. Do you know what staccato means? Staccato means short sounding. You know, I get a lot of guys come in here, 1 and 2. Notice when I said 1, the sound went out, and, all right, this doesn't make it stiff when I count staccato. It's short sounding, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it makes the feel and the notation in between the downbeats tight. Not you, but the notation. Now, if I up the tempo on that, and like I said, that's very nice of you, Scott. Everybody's going to ask questions. It's not a problem. Thank you, ma'am. And yes, staccato is short sounding. So now, and like I said, it's essential you count. And like I said, a lot of teachers, "Oh, I don't teach my students how to count." Well, man, like I said, if a teacher told me he don't count or teach anybody how to count, I'd pack up my books and leave, because that's not a very good teacher. All right, now if I'm at an up tempo here, it's kind of hard. One and two and three and four and one and two and three, and it's a lot of counting, especially if I have to do 16th note counting. So at this point, if I get to 170, I count as is. One and two, three, four. One and two, three, four. One and two, three, four. Like so. It's a lot easier, but that has to come. All right, gentlemen. Scott is totally correct. He is the only one asking questions. Now, there's other gentlemen in here, or ladies in here, or whatever you want to be in here. Can you please, if you understand it, just say yes. If you don't understand it, say no. Can I slow it down? Can I do that again? Whatever. Scott is on a journey, and it's a good one, and he's very humble. And he's not certain of something, he's asking. That's how you learn. Okay, so now I've taken the line and I did it slow. And it's very simple reading. I'm gonna move right down to line 5 at 80. But if you notice, if you do fractions and you add up any one of those the notes inside of the measure, you will get a whole, 4/4. Example, line 5. You have 4/8 notes and 2/4 notes. So if you add up 4/8 and 2/4, you get one whole. Anything else, it's not 4/4 time. There's a mistake. Okay? So you're learning how to read this basically. Understanding the mechanics and the math of how rhythm falls within inside of a pulse. That's as simple as that. We're not playing a big band chart. We're not reading a part from a tune. We're learning the mechanics of notation. So now I'm going to go to line 5. And remember, what I do is I count constant at a tempo like this, eighth notes. I'm going to put it at 60 again. Eighth note counting. That's the pulse. That's the quarter note. I set the metronome to 60. That's telling me 60 is the quarter note. 1, that's the quarter note. 2, 3, quarter note count. Eighth note count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now I'm on line 5, and I'm going to maintain the eighth note count throughout. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, then you want to move the tempo up. Now let's go back to 160. Love this metronome. And that's essential as well. I'm going to take line 5. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1. Now, you're looking at the page. What is this? You understand it at 60. Where would you like me, you understand it at 60. Right now I'm at 168. Actually 170. At 60 is the pulse. And what you want to do is, if you understand it and you're strong at 60, stay there for a while. Then up the metronome somewhat. Put it up a couple more increments. Okay, just continue. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. You're a gem, man. No problem. All right. I'm not phrasing, which he does. He has a 20-bar exercise or a 32-bar exercise. I'm just taking line by line and explaining the notation and the math of the notation. Let's take the next page. Well, if you understand, can I go to another page? Scott, do you understand this? Or you want me to continually review this? Well, all right, we'll stay on the page. Now, what we're doing is we're playing this straight up and down. And we went over that last night at one of the lessons. Straight up and down. Okay, straight up and down. And I feel comfortable with this because you're the only one that's responding to me, Scott. If someone else wants to step forward, please, you understand, does everybody who is viewing the lesson understand the difference between straight up and down and swung? If you do, say yes. If you don't, just put an N for no, and I'll explain it. By you responding to me, we're saving a lot of time. So, who else is in here? And there's a lot of people in here, and nobody is giving me any feedback. I'm gonna wait a second. Scott, how you doing? Okay, good. All right, what about anybody else? We understand the difference between straight up and down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's straight up and down. If I was to play those eighth notes swung, I go to the triplet, 1 and 2 and 4 and the ands become the of the triplet. Okay, so we have 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Now we're going to play. We're going to start this one again at line 1, and this time we're going to swing it. In the beginning, if you're not familiar with it, I would count the triplet all the way through, an eighth note triplet counting, until you feel it. Once you feel it, then we can go someplace else with it. So now I'm going to play line 1 swung, and I'm going to count triplets: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 1 and 2. Sorry, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's swung. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay. Line 5 swung. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's line 5, page 10, lesson 4. Now, last night on the other site, I'm doing a drum set application of what I do at 1 o'clock. And just to give you an example, what we did, okay, was we played a vamp, or so to speak, an ostinato pattern. And this is the same concept. All right, first we're going to do it two ways. First we're going to go back to straight up and down, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm counting first of what I'm doing. For those who weren't here yesterday, I'm playing eighth notes with my right hand and my left hand, constant. It's in 4/4. 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. My bass drum is 1, 2, 3, 4. My hi-hat is heel and toe. Heels on 1, toes on 2 to close it, heels on 3 to open it, 4 to come down with the toe. Heel, toe. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're getting that chick on 2 and chick on 4. Now while this is going on, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to play the page down on another voice. Now this is one of a few ways that I have to do this, because what we're going to do tonight with this, now let me finish this and I'll explain to you what we're going to do tonight. Alright, we're going to play line 1. This is going on. 1 and 2, 3, 4. Makes reading fun. 1 and 2 and 3 now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now what I did is I played that eighth note vamp, okay, and I played what was on the line with my right hand, supposing that will be my floor tom-tom. Okay, now, what I also do with this is when I get on the drum set, and you'll see it tonight, you listen to it tonight if you come to the site, what I do is I'll play quarter notes with all four limbs. I'll assign my right hand to the ride cymbal, my left hand to the snare drum, and obviously the bass drum and the hi-hat. So what I'm going to do when I'm on the drum set is I'm going to play quarter notes with all four limbs. Like one, you can't hear my hi-hat or my ride cymbal, I mean my bass drum. So just bear with it. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have all four limbs doing that. Now I say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to constantly do the four limbs. However, I'm going to assign one of the limbs to play the line. So let's say we're going to assign the left hand, the snare line, or the bass drum line, or the ride cymbal, or the hi-hat to play the line. Because we're in this situation now, what we're going to play is, say the left hand will play the line while I'm playing quarter notes. Remember, my right hand is on the ride cymbal, my right foot's on the bass drum, my left foot's on the snare drum. Hello. Bing-a-bong, hi-hat. And my left hand is going to play the line. 2, there we go, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, again, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now go down to line 5. 1, 2. The left hand's going to play the line. 1, 2, 3, 4. All the time, my limbs are going on all 4. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes simple reading a little challenging. Now let's do that same thing again, all quarter notes. And we're going to do this tonight, like I said, on my site. There's a drum set application. Let's do the same thing, but this time, let's make the right hand on the ride cymbal, the bell of the cymbal if you want, play the line. We'll start with line 1. We're playing quarter notes, remember? Let me take this off. Yeah, 1, 2, nice and easy. Now it's going to play the line. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'm counting eighth notes really. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now I played it with my snare drum, and I played it with my right hand. What does it say? No, I'm not. I haven't. All right, let me. We understand that. We're going to go to another one. Let me explain. I'm not happy with the sound of the drum set. Here's what I've done, and I'm never going to do it again. I've had 4 people come within a month. Now, their sponsors, when they need to use, one guy uses Evans heads, one guy uses Remo, the other guy uses Aquarian. So before each show, I had to change the heads. One guy had Aquarian, the other guy had Evans, the other guy had Remo. And that's essential to them to do a show because the people are sponsoring them. So I have Evans heads on the top. I have my bass drum right now is Aquarian. I have to change it. I don't really like the sound of that. So it's going to take me a little while. I mean, the tune heads, I mean, you're talking, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drums. It's a long time for me. I don't have that time. So I'm going to try to get to the bass drum today. If not, I'm going to bear with it for one more night. Okay? Now, do you understand what I did? Any questions with the limb playing the line? It's really, you're going to have a lot of fun with this if you make the bass drum play. You're going to get a little funky. You're going to start hearing stuff. And what you're doing, and the reason for this, is you're maintaining time. You're balancing out your voices, the ride cymbal, the snare, the hi-hat, and the bass drum. And the one voice, if you assign the line to read, or you're assigning the line to read, that's the dominant voice. All the other voices are sort of like in the background. What makes what intimidating? I don't understand that, Scott. What's intimidating? You know, it's a lot of fun. I'm going to do line 12. Now, try doing that with the left foot. That's the forgotten limb. You're going to spend a lot of time with that. Now, you could do it that way with quarter notes. You could also do it with triplets, and you play the line swung, and it's a workout. And we're going to go into that tonight. You shouldn't. It's nothing. If you've been reading for 600 years like me, you open up a book or you get a sheet, you run right through it. It's not a problem. That's sight reading. And you might make a couple mistakes here and there because what happens is it's not really standard. It should be. The writing should be standard, but it's not. So you have to look at it. I don't care who you are, if you're God or not. You're going to make a few mistakes. You're going to clean it up a little bit, work things out. Some things are a little tricky. The hardest book that I ever read out of was Portraits in Rhythm by Rick Cerrone, and I'm still working out of that book. It's a very difficult book with dynamics. Here, this book has no dynamics. You put your dynamics any place you'd like. Do we all know what the word dynamics means? Everybody, give me their definition of dynamics. Just put it in the chat there. Who else is in here? There's a lot of guys in here. And you're the only one that's responding. I guess some guys that are watching on a phone, an iPhone or an iPad, sometimes the chat won't come up. Dynamics is different degrees of power. And here's where the levels come in. I don't want to create a problem here tonight. You have, let's start with mezzo forte. It's a medium sound. That's MF. Now, if I want to go forte, it's louder than that. Forte means loud. It'll out the difference. Mezzo forte, loud. Fortissimo, very loud. Soft, piano. Pianissimo, very soft. And there's all kinds of... The definition of, my definition anyway, or what I've picked up in the past or with other drummers and other musicians, dynamics is the various degrees of power. You don't need too much power here if you're playing pianissimo. If I'm playing forte, it's a little louder. I need a little bit more power, a little more distance. Fortissimo, fortissimo rather, would be loud, very loud. Different degrees of power. P, 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 P. Hey, Mr. Ball, how you doing, sir? That's it. Piano, pianissimo, pianissimo, forte, fortissimo, fortissimo. I have a hard time pronouncing all of it, but that's what it is. Now, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to page 12. So, gentlemen, get it up. You see, if you notice, the syncopation book, the stick control book, have no accents, nor do they have any dynamic markings. All right, let's go to page 12. All right, and we come into, this is a little maybe advanced if you know how to play quarter notes and eighth notes, and now we're going to play dotted eighth notes. All right, there's a rule here that you need to follow no matter where you, what time signature you play in or whatever. It's the dot. What does a dot do to a note? Let's see the response of the audience here. Lesson 5. Playing dotted eighth notes, 16th notes, and quarter notes. So you can get that. That's it says it should play lesson 5. It's a dotted eighth note with a 16th note, then 3 quarter notes. You got it, Scott? Okay. Now, do we all know what a dot does to a note? I don't see any definitions inside of the chat. Okay. A dot. Don't be shy, gentlemen. We're all musicians. We're all entertainers. We all go on stage and perform in front of thousands and thousands of people. This is amongst drummers here, and there's like 7 or 8 of them in here right now. Okay, here's where the math comes in. All right, let's take 16th notes. How many 16th notes equal a quarter? 4 16th notes equal 1 quarter. If you reduce the fraction 4/16, you reduce it to its lowest term, you get 1 quarter. Now, here's what a dot does to a note. A dot placed after a note increases, that means it's going to be more than, increases the value of the note by 1/2 the original value. Okay, now, you look at an eighth note, which equals 2 16th notes, or 1 quarter, but it equals 2 16th notes. You place the dot, the rule says, okay, the dot being placed there is going to increase the value, so therefore it's going to equal more than 2 by 1/2 the original value. This is the original value, 2 piece, you know, that. So the dot is going to increase the value by 1/2 of the 2, which is 1. So a dotted quarter note, a dotted eighth note rather, equals 3 16ths. Now, you have another 16th at the tail end of it because you need to mathematically be correct. So if I play, that's lesson 5, page 12, the first measure, I have, and this here I'm going to have to do in 16th note counting right now. And as we should know, that's right, 3 16ths. A dotted eighth note equals 3 16ths or 6 32nd notes. All right, so you have 1 16th plus 1 16th plus 1 16th is 3 16ths. But you need 4 16ths in there. So you have the other 4 16ths that has to be played. Well, I'll play lesson 5, line 1. And I'm going to count 16th notes here. I'm going to count 16th notes. 1, E, N. That's the 3 16ths it equals. And I got to complete the downbeat, da. So now I'm going to play that again. 1, E, and da. We got that, gentlemen? 1, E, and da. And then we complete the measure. 1 E and 2 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Do you understand that? 1 E and 2, 3, 4. Now you have to be careful here. We don't want to swing this and make it sound like a triple. So you got to be You got to think the 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E and the staccato. 1E and the 2E and 3E and the 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E. 1E and the 2E and the 3E. Nice and light 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4. Got it, Scott? Everybody else okay with that? So now I go do line 1, 1E and the 2, 3, 4. 1E and 3, 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4. Now I go to line 2. When I go to line 2, the dotted eighth note goes to this downbeat on 2. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and 4E and as you progress and you make it faster, you're going to feel that. Okay, so now what else we do with that? We can play again, utilizing, and it helps, man, because you're doing all this counting. And it's good to be out there by yourself when you say 1E and the time is out there. It's being spiritual, I guess you could say. But, you know, if you're going to be counting like that, get your left hand or your right hand, depending on what you want to do here. In this case, we're going to use the left hand, and we're going to play 16ths. Bass drum 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3. Bass drums 1, 2, 3, 4. Hi-hat 2 and 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4. So you're actually working the hell out of that left hand. Plus, now what you're going to do, you're going to play what's there with the right hand on another voice. That's line 1. 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3, 4. 1E and the 2E and the 3, 4. We understand that, gentlemen? Got that? Yeah. All right. Well, you could think of it that way. You're going to get a little confused. You have 1E and that's a 16th note count. When the dotted eighth note would equal 1E and, but you got to complete it. See, the dot takes the value of the 1E and you have the da to play. So, line 1 again, 1E and da 2. The 3/16 is the dotted eighth note, 1E and. Now I have to complete that to make it the equal quarter note, da. So I have 1E and 2. 3E and 4E and so on and so forth. Okay, any questions on that? We're going to do this tonight. We're going to do this tonight on the drum set. We have a lot of fun with it. We're going to do the four-way coordination reading-wise. That's a lot of fun, and it's also kind of challenging. And you're going to find yourself getting stumped, and it's not the reason for that. Just getting stumped means that's one of your weaknesses you want to make stronger. What I want to do, and I believe someone's watching who's not in the chat, and I need to say this. Many years ago, and I'm talking many, I used to be in the drum corps. Yeah, that could work as a metronome. Yeah, you have all kinds of high-tech stuff now. What I want to say here is this, and I need to mention this because it's bothering me. I'm a kind of sensitive guy, and I need to have the correct things follow me around, not incorrect. I don't bash anybody. That's number one. I have total respect. all right, for all drummers. The guys who work hard and want to grow and are not competitive. You know, being competitive is kind of childish. And, you know, it's like I have total respect because we're all on the same journey of learning. And, you know, we all kind of help each other out. We don't make fun. Nobody cares if you could play your paradiddles at 200 and Joe can play only his paradiddles at 100. Remember, you were there one time, the guy at 200. It don't matter. It's, you enjoy what you're doing, you smile when you do it, you're having a good time, you be creative. That's like, you know, you take great drummers like Max Roach, Elvin Jones, Art Blakely, Tony Williams, Joe Morello, Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa. All those guys, you could sit them in the audience and have one guy out of those, however many I what you call it, mentioned, get up on stage and play a tune. Yeah, let's name a tune, a simple kind of tune. See, Satin Doll. Say Gene Krupa gets up there, plays Satin Doll. Buddy Rich gets up there, plays Satin Doll. Joe Morello, Art Blakely, all take a turn playing Satin Doll. They're all playing the Satin Doll. Would you believe every time someone else different played that tune, it sounds different? Why is that? Because one is better than the other? They're putting themselves, their own voice, inside of the song. And that's where the respect comes. What I can't deal with are drummers who have an attitude. I've been playing 10 years and I can play twice as fast as you. That means absolutely nothing. That's childish and very high schoolish or whatever you want to call it. There's you know, this has to do with the level system that I was talking about the other day. And I don't want to argue with nobody. I'm too old to argue and have drama in my life. What I'm taught, what I was taught, and what I've, you know, by Joe Morello, who he studied with, George Lawrence Stone, is what I try to project, and I add my own to that. So I'm not trying to be somebody. What's this? That's exactly right. That's you know, it's all commercialism, mainstream, and how much money somebody can make. It's simple. This is an art. There's a science to it. And the one friend of mine who's helped me out a lot is a scientist as well as a great drummer. He understands the hand technique. But, and I don't want to mention names because it creates a problem, but if people have been following me, they know who I'm talking about. The guy's brilliant. But anyway, when I was younger and I was in the drum corps, I went to see some drum corps drummers in clinic. And that's kind of a different kind of drumming totally than what we're doing now. But it's a beautiful thing to watch. You know, you have 7, 8 drummers in a line doing the same thing. Man, that's a heck of an accomplishment. Okay? Now, then that's where the competitiveness does come in with some of these drummers who, instead of playing drum corps, now they're playing drum set, and you jazz cats or you rockers and being about all that stuff, and they're stoned into one way of doing something, which takes away from their creativity. And yeah, our drum line is better than your drum line. That's where the creativeness comes in. I mean, not creative. The competitive attitude comes in, which is not very good. It doesn't belong. It's not a sport. It's an art. You play who you are on your drum set. You want to learn correct technique, then you take it that way. You know, there is a certain way to hit a drumstick, hit a drum, to develop sound, you know, and to avoid injury. And that's what I teach. And that's what I've learned. Now, I went to a drum clinic one time, and you probably don't know who this gentleman is. Very few people have heard of him because it's back in the 60s. Mitch Markovich. Man, this guy had a set of hands on, rudimental hands on a snare drum, a field drum, but beautiful, clean. And I look at him and I said, wow, that must have taken a long time and a lot of hard work. And he demonstrated this. And this is going back in the 60s. He demonstrated you say what you play, or you play what you say, however you want to say. Example, I'm going to do 2 single paradiddles, 2 double paradiddles, 2 triple paradiddles, and 2 paradiddle diddles over and over again. Now, I made a video of this, and I got some feedback as they're going to report me to YouTube because it's copywritten. And I'm saying, wait a minute, by somebody who's not even as old as, wasn't even born rather, when I went to the clinic. And I'm saying, how could somebody say he invented this when it's been around before he was born? So I remade the video, and I got a book, which is no longer in publication. And as a matter of fact, somebody from Iowa, one of the field drummers, sent me the book. And that was by WFL. Now, WFL was a founding father of the National Association of Rudimental Drummers. And he had that system I'm going to demonstrate in the book. And that was in 1937. Boom. So how could somebody lay claim to something that's not theirs? Anyway, I'm going to play paradiddle, paradiddle, double paradiddle, double paradiddle, triple double paradiddle, triple double paradiddle, paradiddle, diddle. That's the exercise. My daughter drives me crazy with that, and we refer to that as a paradiddle tree because it progresses from single, double, triple to paradiddle diddle. Now, I just did it slow to explain to you, but sometimes I'll sit here for 3 or 4 minutes and play paradiddle. Now, that's not very fast. Yeah, that's true. But that, if you could see, if you look at what I'm doing, and I make the transition from single paradiddle to double paradiddle to triple paradiddle and to paradiddle diddle, you can see what the level system is. See the levels? Just forgot where I was. Sorry. And you can play it on the drum set. I can't see it. I'm gonna do that tonight on the drum set. But it's a cool one, you know? And it's a good warm up. And you're not trying to hurry, so you're warming up. It's like, if you have your automobile in the morning and it's cold out, you go outside and you turn it on to warm up. You don't sit in there and floor it. So on and so forth. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to have to leave. And whoever's watching, you're invited to come to the lesson tonight to do a drum set application. And what we'll do is I'll give you my address again. I have a video on that. And I have sheets on it. No problem, Scott. Let me give you the site. Where's the dot? That's it. Okay. That's the address, gentlemen. Scott, thank you for participating. 8 p.m. tonight, right? Eastern Standard Time. 8 o'clock. And see if you get into the what you call it, the chat. Where are you from, Jay? Are you from America? Or are you from down the street from me? Or where are you from? What country? And Scott, thank you for participating. You made the lesson a lot easier for me with the questions. You're in the Midwest. All right. Do you have Skype? Let me give you my Skype contact. You want to Skype me, make contact, okay? All right, gentlemen, before I shut it off, if there are any questions, and anybody else wants to make Skype contact with me, can. We could discuss the lessons. We could outline some lessons, future lessons. And if anybody wants to join the site, like I said, the site's going to be free until 2017, January. So you don't need a password or a user's name. Just go to the site, hit on live lesson, and you're there. You'll just see a screen until I begin the lesson. All right, one more time. Any questions? No questions? There's a little delay, so I'll just wait a little bit. Gentlemen, it was fun. Well, hey, Scott, that's great, man. All the questions you have, man, just throw them at me. Because that means that you're curious and you want to learn. What's that? Oh, that's right. It's got to be thank you. At the end, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. At the end of the address, it's Matt Patella Live Lessons. I only put live lesson. I apologize. My mistake. Okay, gentlemen. Time to go to work.